Morgan Wallen's third album, One Thing at a Time, is here.
Are you serious?
Oh my gosh!
Yep, Morgan Wallen has dropped his new album, and it's easily the most anticipated country album, and possibly the most anticipated all-genre album in the front half of this year. And right off the bat, according to early projections, it is headed to a massive, massive, massive debut, even bigger than Dangerous, which, as y'all know, is one of the biggest country albums of our whole lifetime. Spawning hits like Wasted on You, Sand in My Boots, More Than My Hometown, and my personal favorite, 7 Summers. And being so beloved by the masses that it became a true sales and streaming phenomenon to such an extent that even a series of scandals could not derail the momentum behind Morgan Wallen. And so the question coming into One Thing at a Time was whether Morgan could maintain that level of momentum, have an album filled with bangers that the people like, that's country enough for the country crowd, but progressive enough for the kind of poppier, hip-hoppier fans. It was announced a few weeks ago that the album would be 36 songs long, to which I said, good lord, that is such a long album, and I try to not review anything that I haven't listened to multiple times. So I'll have you know, I spent a good 6 hours listening to this album 3 times all the way through, and you know, I still feel like I have more to wrap my head around, because 36 songs, an hour and 52 minutes is just a really damn long time. And yes, if you're new here, I said it about Zach Bryan too. It's it's way too long. And now that I've had some time to listen and process the album, I would say that yeah, it's absolutely too long. I think there's no way to listen to this album without feeling a bit fatigued, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty strong effort and actually incredibly similar to Dangerous. I've seen a good amount of discourse in the last few days of people saying, it kind of seems sadder than Dangerous did, to which I'm like, were you listening to Dangerous with your ears? When you sang Wasted on You, or Sand in My Boots, or 7 Summers, or More Than My Hometown, or 865, you know, did those seem like happy songs to you? To me, Morgan's always been a sad boy. I literally called my review of Dangerous The Surprising Sadness of Morgan Wallen.
I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all.
This is an album about drinking too much and relationship issues, and often the ways that those things interplay. And frankly, it can feel a little bit one note as an album. There are so many songs where he's had too much whiskey the night before, and they said too much, and they got in an argument, and his stupid mouth has gotten him in trouble, and now their relationship's kind of on the rocks, and so he understands why you gotta leave him. Sometimes the album feels almost like an admission of a drinking problem over and over and over again, a bit like a cry for help, the same way that Living the Dream did on Dangerous. And I think it's the fact that that theme is on so many songs that it can feel even longer than it is. But over the course of this weekend, I took a few different strategies when listening to this album, sometimes doing it in little chunks instead of going all the way through. And I found it a way more palatable, interesting, and kind of dynamic album when I just heard the songs sort of on their own rather than trying to listen to it as a project. I actually like most of the songs on this album more than I like the album as a cohesive project, because it's just too much quantity. But we got some stuff on it that is incredibly country, like some of the countryest stuff Morgan has ever done. So if you are just the type of person that comments, country plus rap equals crap, I mean, I get it. I'm the Snapchat guy that kind of tried to take down the whole electronic drum world of country music. I promise you, there's actually some real country here, some real steel.
Keith Whitley keeps bringing you
Some real Wallen vibes on songs like Everything I Love. But yeah, then there's definitely a whole hip-hop rap influence on a bunch of other songs like Cowgirls and Sunrise.
Long live cowgirls, never gonna settle on down.
Which, you know, is not my thing at all. But all of it is carried through interesting production, pretty damn good writing. There's 49 songwriters represented here. That might sound like a lot, but think about the fact that there's 36 songs, and most country songs usually have like 3 writers these days. And Morgan's voice, which has always been the most unimpeachably great thing about Morgan. And the way he knows how to deliver stuff, either kind of yelling it out in this like scratchy voice, or flowing. He has sometimes very cool cadences in the way he delivers things. But even so, I understand that for a lot of people, especially skeptics, they're not going to sit and listen to 36 songs. They just want to know what are the best ones.
I've been throwing down the whiskey.
And so I thought for this video, I'd try something different than doing any kind of track-by-track review. I want to cull the 36-song album into the perfect 12-song project. And in doing so, I want to take into account a lot of different things. I want to be true to what the album is and represent the different kind of sounds that are on the album. I want to be true to myself and represent what I think are the best songs. And I want to think a little bit like a label executive and be like, we need to have some hits and a journey that we can take this era on. And so I have my notepad right here, and I think I'm just going to make some categories for 12 songs, and then we can slot them in and make the perfect version of one thing at a time. Okay, so here are the categories that I came up with. I want a banger. I want a really country song. I want a rapish song. I want an alt vibe song, because I feel like there's some kind of like alternative energy on this album. I want something about alcohol, a sad boy song, because he's so down on himself, something reflective or religious. Those themes are on here. I want a collaboration. I want just a great lyric. And then I'm giving myself 3 wild card slots to build this perfect album. So category 1, a banger. This is me thinking as a label executive, maybe, of just like, what's something that you undeniably jam to? And I gotta go with Last Night.
Last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember.
I reviewed that a couple weeks ago, but it continues to sneak up on me. That hypnotic song, the reaction that I have to it almost reminds me of how I felt about Holla Back Girl way back in the day, where the first time me and every other millennial heard that song, we were like, oh, it's kind of weird. She's singing about bananas. It's a little unpleasant. And then 2 weeks later, you were like, B-A-N-A-N-A-S. That's how Last Night is. It freaking sneaks up on you, and it is so hypnotic. You find yourself saying, last night we let the liquor talk.
I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all.
And yes, I know it's the Snaptrackiest thing in the world. I don't care. It goes hard. It somehow doesn't go anywhere and goes hard. What a strange song. But just, it's a streaming monster. It's gonna be a giant pop hit. And so it's going on here. Okay, then I'm gonna go to the drinking category because alcohol is such a big theme. Right off the bat, we've got Born with a Beer in My Hand, which is sort of like an interesting, sad song about his struggles with drinking. And he's like, well, what do you expect? Like, yeah, I'll smile when I'm sober, but I'm a redneck and I'm gonna drink again, basically. But I really think that the song that best encapsulates his vices is Me and All Your Reasons.
I ain't lonely since you're leaving. I've got me.
I think the song is so wildly creative, and it merges the lovesick, bad at relationships side of Morgan with the substance abuse side of things. And he's basically recoiling after a breakup, but kind of acting like, it's okay, I got my friends with me, but all his friends are just his vices, which consequently were the very things that made her leave.
Copenhagen, whiskey straight, empty bottle.
To me, this song is a stunner because Morgan's in denial through the whole thing. He's like, I'm not actually lonely. But then he's also understanding in the second verse and telling her, I know you did what you had to do because there was no room for you. And he's feigning happiness and camaraderie, but he's so sad and depressed. There's so much going on in it. It's so damn pretty. The melody is so catchy. And where I'm bummed that there's so many songs with this kind of theme, because I think you don't listen as hard necessarily. And I'm like, this one to me is a stunner. Then I want to do a variant of that one that I'm just calling Sad Boy, because a lot of this record really is Morgan just being incredibly down on himself. It's funny, I think sometimes Zach fans and Morgan fans feel an intense need to be against each other, and I'm like, guys, they write really differently, but they have a lot of similar themes in their music. And I feel like you can totally hear it on my pick for this category, which is a song that has snuck up on me with every listen, and it's called Money on Me.
Honestly, I wouldn't put my money on me.
In this song, Morgan is imagining the kind of guy that his girl deserves. And he paints the picture of basically like some wonderful LL Bean catalog model that when he walks in the door, the dogs run up to him and he's always there on time, and how this is what she deserves. And you kind of think he's saying like, that's what I'm gonna be for you, until the end of the chorus when he says, honestly, I wouldn't bet my money on me. He's like, I'm going to let you down. And one of my favorite lyrics on the album, and I already kind of quoted it, is just, if you're looking for a sure bet, a smooth ride, dogs come meet him at the door every night. I like how Morgan's kind of drawn to these like oblique, slightly disconnected poetic phrases like that. It's the same thing he does on More Than My Hometown, where he says, I'm a same gas station cup of coffee in the morning. And you're like, well, that's not a literal line. You're not literally a gas station cup of coffee, but you get the sense of what he's saying. Similarly, that line doesn't fit grammatically in, but it adds just a cool energy. I get the kind of guy he's talking about when the dogs come meet him at the door.
Dogs come and meet him at the door every night, gonna ride me.
And I just feel like this vibe captures how so many dudes feel. Like, every guy I know kind of hates himself, very much self included. And I feel like that is so kind of why Morgan's music often resonates with dudes, and maybe it resonates with girls because they're like, I can fix him. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it, and you know, it's not that complicated. People are just like, that's a banger, or he's hot. I will choose to believe they're reflecting on their eternal despair. And speaking of eternity, let's talk about the kind of reflective / religious category. There's a lot of this on the record between Don't Think Jesus, which is a gorgeous song, as well as In the Bible, the Hardy collab. I don't like that song very much. I'm always attacking Hardy's eschatology, but I feel like the hook of like, if country was in the Bible is sort of weird because like the Bible is so country. I know it's not kind of American country music aesthetics, but like it's about farmers and fishermen, and Jesus was born in a barn, and I found myself distracted by that and kind of just rejecting the whole song because of it. But I think in this category, I'd have to go with a song that's not explicitly religious. It's more about family, but Thought You Should Know.
What's going on, mama? Something just dawned on me. I ain't been home in some months.
Still one of the prettiest songs that has been released in the last few years. Written with Nicole Gallion and Miranda Lambert, and it's got their fingerprints all over it. Miranda Lambert is so good at these songs about kind of the tension that you feel with wanting to make your parents proud. I always reference the song What About Georgia when I'm talking about this because I feel like they share some DNA.
Don't forget, boy, you're your mama's only son.
But the song finds Morgan a bit ashamed of himself and yet also kind of finding his footing in life and trying to tell his mom not to be too worried about him. And there's something so peaceful and sweet, and just when you see that song live and the audience is screaming it at the top of their lungs, it's special. Okay, so we got 4 songs figured out. Now let's jump into my little mini genres within the album here. First, let's talk about the country song for here. Now, there's a good amount of steel all on this record. Things like Devil Don't Know, stuff like 98 Braves. But I feel like the countryest thing Morgan's ever done, and I think it's such a banger, and it's kept growing on me since hearing it the first time, is Everything I Love.
Wish I would've known about now. You'd be good to go.
This is your standard Morgan Wallen song where he's left in a cloud of dust. The man loves a dust cloud or loves getting left in the dust, and he does on this song. But man, it just is this kind of like jangly, super country, super fun barn burner of a song. And I'm pumped to see, when you look at the streaming numbers on Apple Music today, it's way up there. I mean, the top songs are all the hip-hoppy ones, but Everything I Love is like 4th place. Okay, now let's do the rap-ish song. My choice for this one is definitely not Sunrise.
You're my sunrise, you keep coming up.
I don't like that song, kind of like blah, burning it down vibes to me. It's not Lifestyle.
She don't come from it, but now she ain't running from me. Yeah, she loving the life.
And I know everyone's like, oh, but it's sampling whoever it's sampling. You think I know who it's sampling? Young Thug? I don't know. And Cowgirls I'm not into. But the one kind of rapish song that I really, really like is Ain't That Some.
This ain't that some back home, but it's in the field, mud on the whiz. Yeah, ain't that some.
And I like it a little bit for some of the lyrics. Sometimes I thought the song was like an attack on me because it was referencing Zebcos and like people not knowing what they are, which, you know, I didn't once. And then it also references how singing about trucks out in the country is cliche, which, you know, I also say all the time. I'm just kidding. I don't really think the song was written about me, but I liked the self-awareness of those lyrics. But mostly I freaking love the flow of this song. The whole part where there's a switch up where it's like C-O-U-N-T-R-Y.
Ain't that some C-O-U-N-T-R-Y? Shit we've been doing since we was J-High.
And it kind of breaks from the rhythm for him to kind of swing a little bit right there. That's cool. And then the whole part of the first verse where Morgan almost goes into these like sort of slow motion triplets.
What a honey hole with a Zebco when my jeans rolled and a painted skull in my lip.
It's so cool how he delivers it. And then my buddy Bo pointed out to me that he's like, I love that they say yay high in the chorus. He's like, that's so southern. I've never heard that in a song. Next category is alternative vibes, because I do think there's this sort of rock, slightly grunge, maybe a little bit Killer-Z energy on this record. And I'm gonna go with another one of the pre-releases, and that's One Thing at a Time.
I can give you up right now.
I think this song is excellent, and I have from day one. As soon as these all dropped, that was my favorite, and I still love it. I like the kind of new wave vibe of it. I think it's an incredibly creative lyric where he's saying he doesn't know how to both quit thinking about this girl and quit doing his vices. He's like, I can only quit one thing at a time. So he's like, the choice is either let me keep smoking and drinking too much, or I'm gonna be blowing up your phone. Okay, collaboration is the next category. And obviously I've said my feelings on both In the Bible and Cowgirls, and also like Long Live Cowgirls. I bequeath that lyric to Ian Munsick.
Long live cowgirls.
I feel like him and Cody Johnson already own it. Also, shout out the acoustic version of Long Live Cowgirls that doesn't have all the harmony on it. I freaking love that one. But yeah, those ones aren't my vibe. So by default, but also it was my favorite of the three, is the Eric Church collab on this record called Man Made a Bar.
God made the world, 7 short days, said it was good.
Which maybe even could like dovetail with the religious category. Eric is like a total idol of Morgan's, and it's cool to hear him get such a big feature. His delivery style is pretty different, and I think he sounds so good on it.
Some say it's a cover band, that's a cover man.
The second his vocals came in, I was like, damn, that sounds awesome. And it wasn't just a little tease. Like, I like the song Does to Me with Luke Combs a lot, but I was like, we're just giving Eric Church a couple lines here. I feel like it's a real feature on the song, and I think it sounds great. Then my last category before my 3 wildcard picks is lyric. And this is just for the most creative, interesting lyric. And this one is obvious for me. It's 98 Braves.
We were a team and love was a game. We'd have been the 98 Braves.
This is one of the most creative songs I have heard in ages, thinking about the demise of a relationship that was going well and comparing it to a baseball team that had a great season and then fell apart, I think, in like the ALC championship. They definitely didn't get to the World Series. I looked this up on Wikipedia earlier, but they lost to the Padres right before the World Series, and it was heartbreaking for our narrator watching them. And he's like, if we were a team and love was a game, then we'd have been the 98 Braves. It's so strangely specific that it's fascinating.
As fate would have it, that Atlanta Magic got put out by them damn Padres.
Even just little stuff like, we had a good run. Ha, that's funny. And when he says at the end of the second verse, just like that season, girl, you and me didn't end with a ring on a hand. And geez, the steel on that song is so pretty, but so is the guitar. There's a part where he's like, we were a team and love was a game. And you hear the guitar stepping down like, dun, dun, dun. But it just sounds so cool with the steel and with Morgan belting, and it's so country. Okay, this leaves us with 3 wild cards. And just looking at my list now, I like these 9 songs I've chosen, but the one that I can just see without even looking at the track list that I want to put on here is Whiskey Friends.
Won't you play a little Whitley for me and my whiskey friends?
I'm not gonna lie, the theme of this song is very similar to Me and All Your Reasons, where he's got his whiskey friends, Jack and Jim, and he's down on his luck. He's made a big mistake in his relationship and said the wrong thing, but he's gonna hang with his whiskey friends. But it's really the vibe of this song that is so cool. I'm not the first person to say it sounds so much like Mr. Brightside in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm always down for 2 beers, that ain't nothing new here.
But it also gives me shades of What's My Age Again by Blink-182. And I just feel like the chorus release when he's like,
Bartender, pour me up again.
like it hits in such a satisfying way. And I find that pop rock energy mixed in with Morgan's sound irresistible. Okay, but now we only got 2 tracks left. And so I'm gonna need to consult my phone and see what I would still put on here. Contenders would be Devil Don't Know is a contender. No, no, no. Keith Whitley could be a contender. U-Proof, not super into. F-150-50's fine. Neon Star, Country Boy Lullaby. Continuing our nursery rhyme theme and country music that's going on. I Deserve a Drink. I feel like I've covered that thematically. I really do like Had It. I do like Outlook and Dying Man. Okay, but here's one that I think no one's talking about that I actually really like. I'm gonna throw it in the mix here. I'm gonna say Hope That's True.
I hate that it's class bands that you're so damn proud of. You hate my
Mostly because I think most of this album is about literal toxic substances in your body, but this is about like some petty toxicity emotionally that Morgan has given to this girl. He's literally listing all the things that annoy him. Her reaction to his truck, the fact that she wants a guy with $ eyes, and he says, it ain't that I want you to think I hate every single thing that you do, but when you say I'm not ever gonna find someone like you, I hope that's true. Which is so funny.
I hope that's true.
You know, can you imagine the fight where she's like, you're never gonna find someone like me? And he's like, yeah, I hope that's true. Similarly, another great example of cool flow is in the start of the second verse with the whole like,
I was high, but I guess I wasn't high class enough to show up with you.
class flows right into enough to da 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 da. Like really just cool, unusual flow on some of these songs. But yeah, I mostly think that's a really cool, smart hook and mean and petty, and that's a good energy on an album. And wow, I've been sitting here scrolling for a while trying to think of what is my last pick. I like both the last two songs on the regular album, Outlook and Dying Man. I think they're trying to kind of touch on similar themes of angels and these crossroads in your life, and on Outlook it's really his perspective that's being improved, and on Dying Man there's a woman that saves him. But geez, I don't know what I would put as my last song on here. I kind of want to do Devil Don't Know, just because it's so country.
What's keeping me up all night is knowing what's keeping you.
But then I kind of want to do Don't Thank Jesus. And then the record executive me kind of wants to do Thinking About Me, because that's a sneaky banger too.
When you're tasting what he's drinking, are you thinking about me? When you're riding.
It reminds me of my reaction to Wasted on You, where I was like, this isn't my style musically, and it's not, but then, you know, begrudgingly when I'm walking, I'm like, are you thinking about me? But I like the idea of ending with something with a little more reflection and gravitas. So I'm going to end the album with Don't Thank Jesus, because it is still a stark moment.
If I was him, I'd say to hell with you. Ain't no hell.
And I feel like it would be such a statement to have an album about all these drinking and relationship problems and party benders and all that, and then end with Don't Thank Jesus, like this moment of, yeah, a literal come to Jesus moment. So here are my 12 songs that ended up on my album. Last Night, Everything I Love, Ain't That Some, One Thing at a Time, Me and All Your Reasons, Money on Me, Thought You Should Know, Man Made a Bar, featuring Eric Church, 98 Braves, Whiskey Friends, Hope That's True, and Don't Thank Jesus. Something I kind of want to do right now is just look up who wrote all those songs and see if within those 49 songwriters there's someone's writing I'm particularly drawn to, because I was not taking that into account as I chose these songs. So give me a minute to tabulate and look at lots of Spotify credits. Hey, that was an interesting exercise. The writer that I guess favor the most on this record is Ryan Vogtsek. I'm pretty sure that's the name of Charlie Handsome. Although I saw Charlie Handsome credited too. Maybe when he's like a producer, he's Charlie Handsome, and when he's a writer, he's Ryan. Anyway, 6 of those songs he was a writer on, and that was tied with Morgan Wallen, who was a writer on 6 of those songs. The next 2 were Ernest, which makes sense. BT dubs. Last video, y'all know I love the Ernest album. Go listen to it. If you haven't listened to like the deluxe side of Flower Shops, incredible. So country, so good, so fun, not one skip on there. And then Ashley Gorley, surprisingly, also had 5 songs. I normally can pick out an Ashley Gorley song like that. And I usually don't like them in the context of a record, because I feel like he gets added onto a lot of albums to write a big radio hit. So like when I was listening to Denim and Rhinestones by Carrie Underwood, for instance, as soon as Burn came on, I was like, I bet this is the Ashley Gorley song. And then it was. But I'm not saying he's not a huge hit maker. I'm just saying it's cool they brought out a different side of him, because I really liked all the songs he was kind of on this record. So maybe when you throw him in with a different mix, you bring out like a different side of him. Other writers that had multiple on here, John Byron and Blake Pendergrass. They both had 2 songs in my final list, and that makes sense to me because they're the guys that are at 865. I've been hyping them for a while. And then Chase McGill and Josh Miller were the other 2 that had multiple hits. So I'm not saying they're like better writers than the others, but it's just an interesting exercise for me to figure out. Man, how do I wrap up this review? I guess I'd say that's my album. I hope this was fun. It's a different kind of thing than I've ever done before, but I'd love to know your favorites on the record. I can already hear that you're going to be mad at me for not putting Keith Whitley on there, to which I just say, yeah, that feels maybe fair. Maybe on the deluxe edition, we can throw like a real country song and like a real poppy song. So the deluxe, we'll release 3 extra songs on the deluxe of my version, and it'll have Keith Whitley, Thinking About Me, and maybe like Tennessee Fan or something. And then everyone can be a little bit happier. But if I had to give this album a score, I think I would give it probably as an album, same as Dangerous. I'd say it's like 6 out of 10, just because it's not very listenable to me as an album. My album, if that were released, I mean, that feels like an easy 8 or 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think so. So maybe the power of an edit or an imaginary edit, I don't know. But look, they're breaking all the records in the world, so who cares what I have to say? Those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the record. Did I choose your favorites? What songs would you put on here? What song's your favorite? What song's your least favorite? And overall, what do you think? I'm going to get out of here, okay? Goodbye.